Yo guys, what is going on? Blossom is back, and welcome back to another episode of Top Drives and another episode of what can you get from that pack. I keep saying that when the pack gets too big, I will not do the series in this more in-depth format, but man, once you go one way and you just feel that, it's better, you just don't want to leave. I don't know, man. When the pack literally gets way too big, I'm pretty sure for cutting edge, I won't be making something that's, in-depth. But anyway, I digress. The pack in question is the Note Coupes for You carbon fiber, the pack that you need to open if you want to get that really, really beautiful prize car coming out right now. Now, one dark thing that I want to say, a bit pessimistic, but it could be true, is I'm a bit not afraid, but I'm a bit shocked that Hutch is releasing such a damn good prize car out so early on. Usually massive prize cars are given out at the end of the year during Christmas or towards the New Year's. Think about Avia, think about Rimac Nevera, think about IDR the year before, etc, etc, etc. It's either Hutch doesn't think that the Lancer isn't as big as what I think it is, or the Lancer is as big as what I think it is, but Hutch knows something that we don't, and that's why they're releasing it earlier in a non-prime time, I guess, because there is a chance that Lancer might get nerfed. That is a pessimistic thought, but it might actually happen. But anyway, I digress. This is a pack that you need to open to get that prize car. So first of all, let's talk about the track sets in the final. As you can see, pretty interesting stuff. Literally no drag aside from 1/4 mile. This is a final not meant for the drag. There's also medium ground clearance and low ground clearance needed, a little bit of rain here and there. Overall, pretty good track sets, honestly. It's like, there are 2 city streets on every single track set. It isn't anything too confusing or too annoying, that's what I meant. And overall, they're pretty decent track sets. They complement the cars that you need to use pretty well. So let's talk about the best possible cars for the final. Now, the best possible hand, in my opinion, are the first 5 cars that you see over here. The 2 Donkavort GTO RSs are going to be your best options for anything dry, twisty. And then for the wet stuff, you're going to want to use the Lamborghini Aventador SV Roadster. For City Streets Medium, you're going to be wanting to use the Ford Focus RS. And the City Street Small, you're going to be wanting to use the Jaguar XJR. I'm kicking myself in the foot because I've unpacked that XJR 3, 4, 5 times, and I've fused it away every single time. Fortunately though, I did unpack the Ford Focus RS, and that is in my garage and it's going to be maxed. B team, if you don't have any of the 5 cars on top, would be the Porsche 911 Turbo S 3.8, the Hyundai RN30, the KTM RR, which is going to be, in some cases, an A-team car. The only time that the Expo will not be as useful as a donk are if both cars are fully upgraded. I know for a fact that a KTM Expo RR is able to beat like almost a 2-star Donkavort D8 GTO RS. Like, you need to max out the handling on the D8 GTO RS for it to be above the KTM Expo RR. So in many cases, I think a lot of people are going to be winning with that KTM. Mods Ready Quadrupoda GTS, Ford Falcon XR6 Sprint. For the C team, KTM Expo R, Resvani Beast Alpha, BMW 740D, Subaru WRX STI, and the Vauxhall Maloo. So those are kind of the best options, I think, for the Tri-Series final. If you have any other cars outside of this, I wish you the best of luck. You probably won't have much of a chance. Okay, moving on. How useful is this pack in a general sense? As always with the series, we will begin with the worst of the worst. Hot garbage. And in my opinion, the worst cars that you can unpack from this carbon fiber are a dime a dozen. There are a lot of trash to get from this pack, and that's because of the inclusion of SUVs and MPVs. Honestly, there was no need to add SUVs and MPVs. It's not like any track in the Tri-Series final requires these cars anyway. So if I was doing it, I wouldn't even have added SUV and MPV to make the pack a little bit more enticing, which would lead to more players wanting to open the pack and leading to more revenue for Hutch. So I really don't understand what is the inclusion of all these incredibly useless cars. Look, at the end of the day, what makes hot garbage? A, A, you're part of a pretty shit niche, which is all surface tires or rear wheel drive standard. B, within that pretty crappy niche, you're still a pretty crappy car, aka the lower end cars. And that's exactly what you see over here. All the lower RQ all surface tire cars, and of course all the crappy little rear wheel drive standard tire cars as well. So let us begin with some times. As you can see, kind of disappointing for most of the cars that you see over here, like the BMWs and the Hyundai Santa Fe's and the BMW X5s. I mean, the fact that not every single time is even implemented in Top Drive's records shows how useless these cars are, because nobody that even owns them bothers to put the times in, because there's no point, because they're not even going to use it anyway. Examples being how nobody even bothered to put in the times for the Ford Edge in the sand. Look, I have the car, I have it max, I could add it, and so can many other players, but we don't care because the cars aren't going to be useful in almost anything. Absolutely hot garbage. I'm putting in the Dodge M80 for comparison, and as you can see, up against RQ58s, 57s, and 55s, the M80 is still able to beat a lot of these cars, which is really, really sad. Next up, it's going to be rear wheel drive standard, and as you can see, if you're not able to beat the BMW i4, then there's no point that I'm even talking to you, and that goes for every single car that you can get from this pack, like the Jaguar, the BMW, the Infinities, the hybrid, and the regular Q70. On top of this is the Audi S8 Plus, which needs no introduction for being a piece of crap, losing to all the four-wheel drive, low ground clearance performance tire cars. Some people might argue that it's biased that I'm comparing a 111 Legendary to a 323 or fully upgraded Epic, but for the most part, when you're playing Top Drives, that is the most realistic scenario. If you own the Audi S8 Plus, then most likely you're going to keep it at 1 star, and you're most likely facing an Epic that is already completely maxed. And this leads to a problem of how Legendaries are just so much more expensive to upgrade compared to Epics, and Epics are already expensive to upgrade, but Legendaries are just that much more harder to upgrade, and people will not be using their fuse material, their precious Epic fuse material, on something crappy like an RQ80 car. So yeah, just absolutely terrible. Now, moving on to Pernicious Ulcer. These are cars that are not completely useless, but they are getting there. So usually weaker cars in a niche, and cars that are not able to win stuff, but not completely useless at the same time. So within Pernicious Ulcer, I'm basically including cars like the Porsche Boxster Spider, which, I mean, it isn't a bad car. That's 91 MRA, but the on-paper stats is just not really enticing. The Subaru WRX is four-wheel drive and medium ground clearance. Again, the handling is alright, but the 0 to 60 is garbage. It's the same thing with the Citroen CX Experience. Four-wheel drive standard tire is a great niche. It's also medium ground clearance, but it just doesn't handle. So for all of these cars, they have something going for them, but their on-paper stats kind of just weigh them back. And honestly, I don't want to waste anybody's time. Those cars, no one's going to really max out, so we're not even going to show any times. I don't think that there were any that were even worth showing, to be honest. It already took a couple of hours to make this video. Anyway, now frequent provider is up next, and as you can see, these are cars that are okay. They're not the worst things in the world. They are definitely okay. They have their moments, not all the time, but they have their moments. And including in this niche of frequent provider, we have things like the Ford Flex, which is, cheap to use, decent handling, four-wheel drive and standard. You have things like your KTM Expo GT, which is, yes, it's a pretty decent rear-wheel drive performance tire car, but there are better options. Like, there are literally 2 better KTMs than the KTM Expo. Same thing with the Resvani Beast Alpha. There's a Resvani Beast Alpha X, which is only 1 RQ higher and beats it everywhere. You have things like the Bentley Flying Spur. Yes, it's decent on the city street small, but it falters everywhere else. So let's look at those times. So the first thing that we want to talk about is going to be about the Bentley Flying Spur W12S. I don't know why the photo of this is so low res, but as you can see, the Bentley is the best for the city street small, hairpin road, and the fast circuit, beating out most cars within its RQ, and of course the Mitsubishi Lancer 76. But let's be honest, that 76 Mitsubishi Lancer shouldn't even be 76 in the first place. So yeah, pretty decent stuff on the Flying Spur. It will have its moments, but where it really is bad, it is terrible, like car park and G-force and the kartings and etc, etc. Next thing to talk about is going to be the Ford Flex. As you can see, within RQ50s and 51 four-wheel drive standard tire cars, it is really dominant. But the moment I put in an RQ52 four-wheel drive standard tire car that has decent handling, the Ford Flex is going to be useless, right? So within its own niche, it's strong, and that's why I think it's a frequent provider. It will have its moments, but it isn't too frequent. Well, then I guess I shouldn't call it frequent provider, infrequent provider. It will have its moments. It will have its moments. Maybe frequently even, but not all the time. Another one would be the Giulietta. So the Giulietta used to be terrible when it used to be 63, 64. Now that it's gone down to 61, it's a little bit better. It's good in the fast circuit in the car park. Still loses to the Lotus Exige in many places, and also loses to the Suzuki C2 on like things like indoor karting, which is really, really sad. That being said, though, at least the Giulietta is a little bit better. I think it would be actually even better as a 60 or even a 59. I just don't think it should be in the same RQ of the Lotus Exige as one, as you can see. Considering that the Giulietta even is slick tires compared to the Exige's performance tires, which is a little bit sad. So the Giulietta should still go down, but I think it's a little better than where it used to be. Moving on is the BMW 750i. Now, usually I like to trash on rear-wheel drive standard tires, and I do, but for the BMW 750i, it is frequent provider because it is the best in its niche for the drags. As far as epic rear-wheel drive standard tire cars go, it's the best. As you can see, without a doubt. I mean, there's not a lot of competition. It's the only 74. There's no 73. There's 72, 71, 70, etc., etc., etc. But I digress. It's still the best in its niche. It will serve its purpose when it is called for, and that's why I'm going to give it a frequent provider, but nothing higher, because the fact remains that it's rear-wheel drive standard. It's a pretty useless niche. Okay, moving on now to daily driver. So these are cars where I do think are genuinely useful. You can get a use out of them if you own them. And if I were to unpack any of these cars from the carbon fiber, I wouldn't be too mad. In fact, I'll be quite pleased. That includes things like the Jaguar F-Type, all-wheel drive, the KTM Expo R, the Ford Falcon, the Peugeot 308, and the Hyundai RN30. These cars are all pretty decent. One way or another, they are the better cars within their niche, and they also have pretty, common niches like, rear-wheel drive performance, or, four-wheel drive performance, things like that, right? So, once again, I don't think I'm showing, there's one time that I'm showing. I thought that was showing no times. There's one time, and that is a KTM Expo R. Again, strong car for its niche. As a 76, I'm not gonna expect it to beat like a KTM Expo RR or anything like that, but you would expect the KTM Expo R to be a 76 and beat cars below it, and it does. It beats the Q40, it beats the Lotus 211, it beats the Caterham CSR. All very, very good cars and very, very impressive times coming from the KTM. So definitely very respectable, but it could be better. And one more car that I do want to talk about is, of course, the Renault Clio R. Again, as a 52, it talks the talk, or it walks the walk, right? As a 52, it's very strong. It's able to beat some cars above its RQ, and is definitely able to beat cars within its RQ as well. As you can see, it beats the Ford Focus, Nissan Pulsar, etc., etc. Now, moving on to the best of the best, right? Der Kaiser. The best cars, in my opinion, from this pack are going to be cars like the BMW M5, the Range Rover 5.0, the Honda Civic Type R, the Renault Sport Megane. I mean, these are cars that need no introduction. These four Ultras are literally blossom choice. And the same thing for the Epics and the Legendaries. The KTM Expo RR is blossom choice, and the Ford Focus is very, very strong. One of the Legendaries, the Donkofor D8 GTO, one of the best donks, or if not the best donk in the game, if you omit prize cars. The Porsche 911S, again, not only is it World Expo and above, it is among the best convertibles in the game. I think it's like the best German convertible in the entire game or something like that. So that's another niche that is really good in. Aventador SV, one of the best Italian roadsters or convertibles in the game. I think the Porsche 911 is not the best German convertible. I believe it's the best convertible from World Expo. I believe it's some kind of niche like that with performance tires or something, but I know it is the best car in some niche because I own it and I do use it quite a bit. It actually isn't that bad, but that's mainly because it is the best in its niche. But yeah, these are the best cars in my opinion. And one thing I do need to state is that I was talking about the Porsche and the Focus and how, their World Expo and everything. And one thing that I do enjoy is that for once, this final is not World Expo or above. Actually, the majority of the cars in this final are focused around cars that came before World Expo, which is pretty nice. If you looked at the best possible cars that you could use, the only car that is super freaking useful that came after World Expo is the Ford Focus RS. Everything else came before it, which is pretty cool to see that Hutch did not forget those cars. Again, just showing the same photo with the KTM. This is what makes you Der Kaiser, being just the absolute best of the best and being dominant in that regard as well. So overall, this is what I think of the pack, and as you can see, it's not terrible, but it's not great. There are a lot of great cars that you can unpack, but you know, that is also going the same for a lot of crap cars that you can pack. The best of the best, you know, are the 10 that you see here, from the BMW M5 all the way to the KTM Expo, which I've placed towards the right side of the screen. But if you want to see the entire tier list, it's towards the left. For the most part, it does look pretty accurate. Most of the cars are in the average tier, and there are less cars towards the top. One thing to do take note though is that there are a lot of cars in hot garbage. There are as many cars that I think are hot garbage that are frequent provider as well. Anyway guys, that's gonna be it for today. Let me know down in the comments below if you want to open the pack or not. For the most part, we've seen a lot worse. This pack isn't too bad, it's okay. I wouldn't be opening any though. I don't think it's really worth it, considering that I already have most of the cars in Der Kaiser, and I'll just be focusing on upgrading the cars that I already have. Obviously the prize car is definitely worth it. Like if you are a Japanese collector or not, if you want to be good at the game, if you want you know, a game changer, you need to win this prize card. That is without a doubt a must. That being said though, still there's a decent variety, as in like there are good cars, there are okay cars, and they're crap cars as well. But anyway guys, that's gonna be it for today. I hope you guys have a great day. I'm gonna stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace.
Bro, this song just makes me so happy.
Me too.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Sit back, relax in my Bonneville Pontiac. Hold tight all night, cruise to Jacksonville
Atlantic.
Blonde hair, don't care, look like Leslie Brooks. Pin up girls everywhere with the drop dead look. Swing it side to side as we slow dance to the night, when I'll hold your perfect hand and take you out just for a